Tu nombre, por favor.
Sandra Ávila Beltrán.
¿De dónde es originaria?
Tijuana, Baja California.
In the world of cocaine trafficking, a few names transcend infamy to become legends. One such name is Sandra Ávila Beltrán, better known as La Reina del Pacífico, the Queen of the Pacific. She was beautiful, cunning, and deeply entrenched in the shadowy world of drug cartels. But her rise to power and eventual fall is a story that merges glamour, danger, and betrayal. This is the untold story of Sandra Ávila Beltrán, the real queen of cocaine. Sandra Ávila Beltrán was born on October 16, 1960, in Tijuana, Mexico. She grew up in a family deeply involved in the drug trade. Her uncle, Miguel Ángel Félix Gallardo, was the founder of the Guadalajara cartel and one of the most influential figures in Mexico's drug trafficking history. Her father, Alfonso Ávila Quintero, a family member of Rafael Caro Quintero, a former leader of the Guadalajara cartel, was also involved in drug smuggling. Sandra was exposed to the cartel lifestyle from a young age. This environment shaped her future as she became one of the most powerful women in the history of the cocaine trade. Sandra grew up in a wealthy household, attending private schools and enjoying a lifestyle of privilege. She was known for her intelligence, beauty, and charisma, qualities that would later help her rise in the dangerous, male-dominated world of drug cartels. While many women in her position were relegated to secondary roles, Sandra was determined to take control of her own destiny. She developed a reputation for being calculated, ambitious, and resourceful, traits that would define her career in the drug trade. She spent so many hours counting cash as a child that when she was an adult, she could later grab a wad of bills, close her eyes, and precisely calculate their value by the weight. By her late teens, Sandra played classical piano, mastered horseback riding, and became a professional sharpshooter. By the age of 21, Sandra was heavily involved in the cocaine trade, but she made a point to never use cocaine herself, stating that, "If you do it, the men think you are just another disposable woman. You will never be respected." Instead, Sandra's favorite drug was the affection of men, many men. Sandra's personal life was marked by her relationships with high-profile men in the drug trade. Her romantic partners included some of the most powerful figures in Mexico's criminal underworld, one being Amado Carrillo Fuentes, also known as El Señor de los Cielos, the Lord of the Skies. Sandra was married twice. Her first marriage was with José Luis Fuentes, El Comandante, a police commander who was believed to have ties to drug cartels. The couple had a son together. Their marriage ended tragically when José Luis Fuentes was assassinated outside of his ranch. Later, Sandra married Rodolfo López Amavisca, a former soldier and member of Mexico's PGR. This marriage also ended violently, as Rodolfo López Amavisca was killed in a cartel-related attack 5 years after they tied the knot. But Sandra's most significant relationship was with Juan Diego Espinosa Ramirez, also known as El Tigre, a high-ranking member of the Colombian Norte del Valle cartel. Espinosa was instrumental in helping Sandra establish connections between the Colombian cartels and Mexico's Sinaloa cartel, creating a major cocaine trafficking pipeline. The partnership between Sandra and Espinosa was both personal and professional, and together they coordinated the shipment of massive quantities of cocaine from Colombia to Mexico. Their operations were highly lucrative, making Sandra one of the wealthiest figures in the cocaine trade. Despite her power, Sandra's personal life was fraught with danger and heartbreak. Many of the men she was involved with were killed or captured, reflecting the risks of living in the world of organized crime. Sandra herself faced constant threats, but her intelligence and ability to stay under the radar allowed her to evade capture for many years. She was known for her careful planning and for avoiding the violence and excess that often brought down other cartel leaders. Sandra was also a devoted mother. She had a son. Sandra reportedly doted on her son and went to great lengths to keep him safe. For his 15th birthday, she bought him a Hummer and also gave him an allowance of $40,000 every month. In fact, her maternal instincts played a significant role in her eventual capture, but we'll get into all that in a moment. Sandra Ávila Beltrán's downfall began in 2001 when Mexican authorities intercepted a shipment of over 9 tons of cocaine in the port city of Manzanillo, Colima. The shipment was linked to Sandra and her partner, Juan Diego Espinosa. Although she managed to avoid arrest at the time, the incident marked the beginning of an intensive investigation into her activities. For several years, authorities tracked her movements and gathered evidence of her involvement in drug trafficking. Sandra's arrest came on September 28, 2007, in Mexico City. The operation was the result of years of surveillance and intelligence work. Authorities traced her to a coffee shop where she was apprehended without incident. Her arrest made headlines across Mexico and the world, as Sandra had become a symbol of the growing power of women in the drug trade. Photographs of her being escorted by police showed a composed and elegant woman dressed in designer clothes, an image that contrasted sharply with the violent and chaotic world she operated in. Sandra's arrest was partly linked to her son. In 2002, her son was kidnapped by a rival group. Sandra paid a ransom of $5 million to secure his release, but the incident drew the attention of law enforcement. Authorities began to question how Sandra could afford such a large sum of money, and this inquiry led them to uncover her connections to the drug trade. Following her arrest, Sandra faced a series of legal battles. She was charged with organized crime, drug trafficking, and money laundering. Prosecutors accused her of acting as a key intermediary between Colombian and Mexican cartels and of overseeing the shipment of cocaine worth millions of dollars. Sandra, however, maintained her innocence, claiming that she was a legitimate businesswoman and a single mother who had been unfairly targeted. In 2012, Sandra was extradited to the United States, where she faced additional charges related to drug trafficking. She eventually pleaded guilty to a lesser charge of assisting in the transportation of cocaine and was sentenced to time already served. After completing her sentence in the United States, Sandra was returned to Mexico, where she faced further charges. She was released from prison in 2015 after a judge ruled that there was insufficient evidence to convict her of organized crime. Life after prison has not been easy for Sandra. Her fortune is mostly gone, including her 15 homes, 30 sports cars, and an estimated 300 jewels. Bentleys, Mercedes, Rolls-Royces, I had them all, she stated. I can buy them all again. The only thing I can't buy is the time I have lost in prison away from my son. Sandra Ávila Beltrán's life has captivated the public imagination. Her story has been the subject of books, documentaries, and television shows, including the novel The Queen of the South by Arturo Pérez Reverte and its television adaptation. The character Isabella Bautista in the Netflix series Narcos is also believed to be loosely inspired by Sandra. These portrayals have contributed to her status as a cultural icon, presenting her as a complex figure who combined intelligence, ambition, and ruthlessness. Sandra has spoken out against some of these portrayals, claiming that they misrepresent her life. In recent years, she has filed lawsuits against Netflix and Telemundo, accusing them of exploiting her story without permission. Despite these legal battles, Sandra has largely retreated from public life, focusing on rebuilding her life after decades of turmoil. Sandra Ávila Beltrán's life is a story of power, ambition, and resilience. She rose to prominence in a male-dominated world, defying traditional gender roles and earning a reputation as one of the most influential figures in the cocaine trade. However, her success came at a great personal cost, including the loss of loved ones and years spent in prison. Today, Sandra remains a controversial figure, admired by some for her intelligence and strength, and criticized by others for her role in fueling the drug trade. Her legacy as La Reina del Pacífico continues to spark fascination and debate, ensuring that her story will be remembered for generations to come. What do you think about Sandra Ávila Beltrán? Was she a product of her environment or the mastermind of her own destiny? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the Health Wealth Diary.